Hey, my name is Chris, and welcome to Coding in Public. I'm a new web developer, and as I'm learning things, I'm teaching them kind of back to myself and hopefully to others, and hopefully this is a help to you. Today, we've got kind of a fun project that I learned about and then tried to kind of recreate myself without looking, and so I'm not totally sure if this is the perfect way to do this, but it works. And right now, that's kind of where we're at. All right, so here's what we've got. We've just got a basic kind of boxed area here. And when we click this button, it gets a random color. So we can click this as many times as we want, and it just generates some kind of random color. And then we can copy the color to our clipboard, and it actually tells us it's there. And if I come up here and paste it, that is in fact that color. And we can do that as many times as we want. It tells us what we've copied and pulls that over. So that's what I got to show you today. Hopefully you'll enjoy it, and let's dive right in. Okay, so here's what I've got. I've just got a simple setup with an index.html, a basic style sheet here, and then I've got this JavaScript. So we're going to spend all of our time on the JavaScript. Basically, I've just centered this and added these buttons, and that's about it. And then I've pulled in the JavaScript here, even though it's in the head. I have deferred it so it doesn't load till after everything. If you don't include that deferred little tag there, it will load first, and we're going to be doing a bunch of query selectors, and none of this will be on the page yet, so it won't work. But with it up there in the head and added that deferred tag, we'll come up here and do console log. It works. And I always do that because I have done lots of things where I'm halfway through and I realize it's not working because I didn't hook it up. And there it is. It's working. Excellent. So let's go ahead and keep this up because we're going to use that as we move through this project. All right, let me show you exactly kind of what we're doing. We're going to write several functions, and we'll do it kind of one at a time. So the first thing we need to do is to be able to generate a random color. So there's a bunch of different ways I suppose we could do this. The way I've figured to do it is we're going to create an array with all the possible hex values. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, so we'll just say const, let's call this color options, and we're going to create an array here, and we'll just do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, and then we'll do A, and we do need to actually put that in quotation marks because it's a value. The numbers will end up converting to strings anyhow, or it doesn't even matter really. At least I don't think it does because it works. So we'll come here D and E and finally F. All right, so hopefully that all works correctly. And if we wanted to, we could do console log color options just to make sure that it's actually working. And there's our array right here. Okay, perfect. The next thing we need to do is let's go ahead and just write out a couple other constants we're going to use in the functions we write. So we'll do constant current color and document.query selector. Let's go ahead and make this a little easier to see here. All right, query selector, and we need the current color. So what we're grabbing here is the ID of this text right here. Okay, it's document clear selector. There we go. Next thing we'll need the actual container that is everything here. So this container here is what we're going to grab. And let's come in here. Let's just call it container. And container is the class. All right, now we've got to do a couple things here. So let's go ahead and we'll create a get hex function. So I'll just write this as an arrow function. So this is our function get hex. And we're going to say let the color, so far it's just going to be the pound sign because that's all we got going on so far. We're going to add then 6 of these randomized options here. So let's do that first. Let's say 4. And what we're going to do is actually iterate through this 6 times. So we'll do 1. We're going to say, let's create this variable I, and right now we're going to set it equal to 1. And then if I is less than or equal to 6, then we'll iterate. So what it's going to do now, now that we've written this out, it's going to iterate through this basically 6 times. And once it reaches that number, it will return our color for us, which we'll do here in just a second. So what we need to do is say the color is now equal to color options. It's one of these color options array. Now, here's what we'll do is let's just pass the first value in. Or let's pass the last one. So remember, arrays start with 0, not just the 0 here, but they're actually 0 index. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So if we do 15 here, we're going to say color is equal to color plus, color, and then we actually want to add, we'll want to add color plus color options 15. All right, so we're going to say whatever color is, then append to it F at the very end of that. We're going to do that 6 times, and there's a little shorthand here, which is what I was doing firsthand, but just to show you what it looks like, if you do plus equals, that's the same as what we just wrote. So it makes it a little shorter for you to write. So we've run that function, and then we'll do return color, which allows us to access this outside of this function if we can grab it with a variable here. Okay, so far that's what we've got. Let's go ahead and run get hex. All right, so we'll come in here and do get hex. All right, and there's our F, or however many 6 F's is. Okay, now ideally we want to actually get a new color, not the same color every single time. So we need to write some kind of function that allows us to loop through this and randomly select one. And it just so happens there's something that works great like that in JavaScript. Okay, so let's create another function. We'll call this get random number. We'll do another arrow function here, and this one's actually easier than you might think. We just want to return something here. We want to return a random index. So if we do, let's do console log just so you can see what it looks like, not color log, console.log. And if we do math, that's a capitalized math.random. Let's go ahead and do that just so we can see what that looks like. So if we save this here and refresh, and I guess we need to actually call get random number. Okay, so let's do that. You see here we're getting a number, and it's kind of a random number. And if I keep saving and refreshing, it's random, but you might notice it's always between 0 and 1 because that's what this method random does. So what we need to do is actually get numbers from 0 to 15. So the first thing we'll need to do is actually multiply it times 15. So we could just say something like this, and if we rerun this now, as I'm saving this, you'll notice we get anywhere from 0 through 14 point whatever, which we haven't had a 14 yet, but it is there, I promise. And when you multiply times this, it's going to give us that. Now, we don't want there's a 14, all right? We don't want some decimal number. We actually want a integer, a whole number. So if we come in here and we say, let's go ahead and get what's called a floor. What that's going to do is going to get us it's going to round down to the nearest integer down. So even if it's like 14.999, it's going to round down to 14. So we'll actually say console log math dot round, floor, and then we're going to wrap what we've already done here inside parentheses. So it's first going to run this, and then it's going to grab the floor of it. So if we do this again, you'll notice we got 0. And if we save again, we'll get 1, 10, 11. We'll get anything from 0 to 15. Now, we know there's only 15 options here, so we could just leave it like this. But let's go ahead and actually list however many we've got here. So if you need to use this in the future, what we would do is do color options. That's our array. And then we'll just say dot length. That's just counting how many items are in the array, which would be 15. So it's the same exact thing, but now it's a little more flexible. And if you'll notice as I save, it's just grabbing a random number between all those. All right, so we've got all the numbers we need. We've got everything. Now let's just bring this back up to our get hex function that we wrote. So rather than saying 15 here and grabbing that F, we'll say let's grab the get random number, and we're just going to run it just like that. So if we came down here and we said get hex, now it's getting those, it's showing us those 6 every time, because what we didn't do is actually, let's go ahead and return this. We don't need to console log that. And then we're going to come up here, and we can't return it first because then it won't show. Console.log, when you return something, it just basically exits out of that function, giving you whatever you've done there. So let's just say console log color. And now you'll see we're actually getting a random hex every single time. So believe it or not, we're pretty close to being done. The next thing we need to do is actually set the hex to replace this and to become the body back this way. And we'll actually change the style of this as well to match the body. All right, so we're nearly there. We'll do const set hex. That's what we'll call this function. And we'll do another arrow function. We'll say let color equal get hex. So we're going to actually come in here and use this set hex to run this that runs this. All right, if that's not confusing enough. So maybe let's bump this up so it's a little clearer what the pattern is. So we're going to use set hex. From set hex, we'll run the get hex. The get hex will run the get random number. And that way we've kind of made all these little modules, I guess. I'm not sure what we would call that. So we'll say current color. Remember, we declared this const variable up here. And so it's available to us inside this function. So current color dot text content, because that's what we want to change. And we want to change it to whatever the color is, which is what get hex got us. Let's remove this console log. That's not going to help us. Okay, and then what we want to do is actually set that current color style, the color of it, to the color as well. And lastly, we'll grab the body itself, which I guess we could just do document dot, well, I think we can. Let's just go ahead and do it this way because I know that'll work. So document dot body dot style dot background color equals color. Okay, that's great. Now, one thing we want to do is we actually want to make sure that when we click this button, it runs set hex. Now, I already knew I was going to call it that, but this button itself, I've actually written on click, run this function, set hex, and that's what we've got here. So ideally, if I click this, there we go. It should set everything for us. Now, when we're clicking this, it's running this, which first grabs this color, that's then returned here after it's iterated through this 6 times. It iterates through it by grabbing a random floor value here from this getRandomNumber function, runs it back up here, and then sets the text content to read that. It sets the color to be the same and the body to be this back area. So we'll just keep clicking that, and there we go. All right, now we've got one more thing to do, and that is to set this copy hex button. Now you may have noticed here I've already written in on click run this function. If I run this, I'm going to get an error because there is no copy hex yet. I guess I should also remove running that randomly. Okay, so what we're going to do is write this one final function. We'll say, let's call this again copy hex, and we'll do another arrow function. All right, now we need to do a couple things here. We'll say, let's let color equal document.query selector, and oh, you know what? We've written that up above. We don't need that, so we can just let's just do this. We'll say let color equal, and what do we call that up above? Current color dot inner text. So what we want to actually do is we're trying to grab this now from here. I suppose we could return it from here, but since these functions are kind of run together, this is kind of its own thing. Let's just do this and see if we console log it, if that runs, gives us that color. Okay, so let me come here. Well, I guess I don't need to do that because we've hooked it up here. So yeah, as I click that, it's going to give me whatever the inner text is here, which hasn't changed. But if I move this, each time I reselect it, it's giving me whatever the current inner text is. So that's good. So let's come here next. And the next thing we'll do is we're going to actually create an element. And the reason we need to do this is because typically when you're copying things, as I understand it, you copy that out of a field, like a form, an input field. So we're going to actually create like a fake element that is on the page that we then insert this text into, and then use the copy command to copy it out, and then we'll remove that fake field area. There may be a less hacky way to do this, but I do not know it. So this is where we're at right now. If you have a suggestion for how we could do this differently, feel free to leave a comment below. All right, so we've got temp text area is what we're going to call this, which is kind of a mouthful, but that's what we got. So we'll do create element, and we are going to call this text area. We're not calling it that. I guess that is the element we're creating. So we've simply created that on the page. Well, we will when we hit this copy color button. And now we need to actually do a couple things. We're going to say, let's set the value of that text area to this. So temp text area dot value equals, we want it to equal this color right here. Okay, so now it should equal whatever is here, which right now would be white. All right. And we're going to do a couple of other things, and this would be more if you're using this for like copying large bits of data. We know it's only ever going to be like those 6 characters here. But let's go ahead and do this just for the sake of it. All right, so we'll set an attribute to read only. That'll help with like screen readers as I understand it, and not read this section out. Then we're going to actually say, let's style this position, and we'll say absolute. And then we're going to actually append it to the body. So document.body.append child, and we'll say temp text area. So now what we've done is when we click this, it will grab whatever the current color is. It will create this kind of fake area, add these, this value to it, this attribute to it, this position to it. Then it will append it to the body. And then we want to select that temp text area. Once it's in the body, we can now select it. So we'll run the select method, and then we're going to copy it. So we'll do exec command, and our command we're running is copy. So now it's been copied to the clipboard, so now we can remove it from the body. Let's go ahead and give us a little more space here. So we'll say document.body.remove child. Or I guess we could just do temp text area dot remove, I think. I suppose we'll see when we run this. All right, so far, let's go ahead and, well, we're almost done. Let's just finish this out and see if it works on the back end. We'll actually want to run like that little message. And the way I've got this set up, we'll just add it to a constant document.create element. So we're going to actually create this each time, and we'll say span. Okay, so that's the element we're going to create. Inside that alert element, we're going to say, let's add a class list of alert, and then we'll say alert.text content. So this is the content of that little badge that's going to pop up. We want to say, and then if we use these backticks, it allows us to interpolate in this string here. We can add that variable color. Okay, so this copied is actual just text, and then this is our variable, which will be whatever the current color is. All right, and then I guess let's add an exclamation point for effect. Okay, now we're going to come in here and say container, and this is what we grabbed up top here. This is why we needed that container, which I suppose we don't really have to show up top. We could just bring it down this way. Well, let's do that just so if we don't declare more outside than we need to. All right, container.insert adjacent element, and we'll do after it begins. So you usually pass like before begin, after begin, before end, or after end, and that is basically going to tell the browser where to place this element that you're adding in. So we're saying before or after the container begins. So inside the container, we want it to be right inside here instead of outside of it, like after or before begin would be. And the thing we're going to add is that alert, which is this constant that we've created, added a class to, and now added text content to. Then we're going to set a timeout function. This is basically just a timer for JavaScript here. And we're going to say after, let's see, we're going to say, well, let's run this function. Here's what we want to do. We want to remove that alert item that we created. And let's see when we would do that. I guess we would want to do that maybe 2 seconds after, which is 2000 milliseconds. And if we've done everything correctly here, that should work. Okay, let's remove this console log. Here, let me make sure I didn't mess anything up. I'm getting a, I guess I need to space that correctly. Remove, that shouldn't be there. Okay, I think that should all work correctly. Let's refresh this. I'm still getting an unexpected error. Number 37. Insert adjacent element after begin. We need a comma here. Okay, and now we're getting another unknown alert. Let me see what I've got here. Set timeout. We're going to run this function, and we are removing this alert. We need to wrap this here, comma, space, and I guess we don't really need, if this shouldn't be a, there we go. So we don't actually need this one. Okay, there we go. I think that should work. So now when we come in here, copy it, and there we go. Now I've styled this. I can show what we've done here briefly. So we've got this little transparent, or this alert area when we add that class to it. And then we've got this after element. Copy, right like that. So hopefully that was a fun little project and gave you an opportunity to practice some JavaScript. Happy coding. Thanks for watching.